What if I told you that the answer to how long you're going to live might already be written inside your blood, and most doctors have never once mentioned it to you? Think about that for a second. You've probably been told to eat better, exercise more, sleep longer, and yes, all of that matters. But there is a biological variable that you were born with that you cannot change, and that a growing body of scientific research suggests has a very real connection to your risk of heart disease, stroke, cognitive decline, and even cancer: your blood type. Now, before you roll your eyes and say that sounds like horoscope medicine, I want you to stay with me, because what we're about to cover is not folklore. We're talking about peer-reviewed studies, data from hundreds of thousands of patients, and findings from institutions like Harvard, the American Heart Association, and the European Heart Journal. By the end of this video, you'll understand what the science actually says, what it doesn't say, and most importantly, what you can do with this information to genuinely extend your healthy years. So don't go anywhere, because this might be the most personally relevant health video you've ever watched. Let's start at the very beginning, because a lot of people don't actually understand what a blood type is beyond the letter and symbol on their donor card. Your blood type is determined by antigens, tiny protein and sugar molecules that sit on the surface of your red blood cells. The ABO blood group system, which is what most people are familiar with, classifies you as type A, type B, type AB, or type O. Then there's the Rh factor, which gives you that positive or negative designation. So you end up with 8 common blood types: a positive, a negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, and O negative. These aren't just labels for blood transfusions. These antigens and the antibodies your immune system produces in response to them play active roles in inflammation, clotting, immune response, and the way your cells interact with pathogens and even certain hormones. This is where it starts to get genuinely interesting, because it means your blood type is not a passive characteristic, it is a physiologically active one. Now let's talk about the research, because this is the heart of what you came here for. One of the most significant studies on blood type and cardiovascular risk came out of Harvard University and was published in the journal Arteriosclerosis, Thrombosis and Vascular Biology. Researchers analysed data from over 89,000 people over a period of more than 20 years. What they found was striking. People with blood type AB had a 23% higher risk of heart disease compared to those with type O. People with blood type B had an 11% higher risk, and people with blood type A had a 5% higher risk. Type O came out on top as the most cardioprotective. Now, a 23% difference is not trivial. That is not statistical noise. That is a number that should make anyone with type AB blood pay very close attention to their cardiovascular health. But here is where I need to caution you, and I will say this several times throughout this video: higher risk does not mean certain fate. It means you need to be more proactive, more vigilant, and better informed, which is exactly what we're doing right now. So why does this cardiovascular difference exist? The answer lies largely in something called von Willebrand factor, or VWF. This is a protein in your blood that plays a critical role in clotting. People with blood types AB and AB naturally have high levels of von Willebrand factor in their blood compared to people with blood type O. High VWF means a greater tendency for the blood to clot. And while clotting is essential, you don't want to bleed out from a paper cut, chronically elevated clotting activity inside your blood vessels increases your risk of thrombosis, which means dangerous clots forming inside arteries and veins. These clots can cause heart attacks and strokes. Type O individuals, on the other hand, have naturally lower VWF levels, which translates to a more favourable clotting profile and consequently a lower baseline cardiovascular risk. This isn't speculation, this is a biochemical mechanism that has been replicated across multiple independent studies on multiple continents. Let's move on to stroke, because the data here is equally compelling and equally important. A meta-analysis published in the journal Neurology examined multiple large cohort studies and found that people with non-O blood types, meaning AB or AB, had a statistically higher risk of ischemic stroke, which is the kind of stroke caused by a blood clot blocking an artery in the brain. The same von Willebrand factor mechanism is largely responsible here. Additionally, Research has suggested that people with blood type A may have slightly higher levels of LDL cholesterol. That's the so-called bad cholesterol compared to people with other blood types. Since elevated LDL is one of the primary contributors to arterial plaque buildup, this creates yet another pathway through which blood type A can influence cardiovascular and cerebrovascular risk. Now let's talk about something that I think deserves a lot more attention than it gets, and that is the connection between blood type and cognitive decline. A study published in the journal Neurology, and this one genuinely surprised researchers, found that people with blood type AB, which is the rarest blood type, had a significantly higher risk of developing cognitive impairment as they aged. In fact, AB individuals had approximately 82% higher odds of developing cognitive problems compared to people with other blood types. 82%. That is not a marginal finding. The researchers believe this link is partly explained by the same clotting tendencies we've been discussing, because poor blood flow to the brain over decades contributes to cognitive deterioration, but also by inflammatory processes that differ across blood types. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary drivers of neurodegeneration, and emerging research suggests that blood type influences how your immune system regulates inflammation at a cellular level. Speaking of inflammation and immune response, this brings us to one of the most fascinating and actively researched areas of blood type biology, and that is the relationship between blood type and infectious disease vulnerability. This became a particularly hot topic during the COVID-19 pandemic, when multiple studies from China, Europe, and North America found that people with blood type A appeared to be more susceptible to severe COVID-19 infection, while people with type O appeared to have a degree of relative protection. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, analysing over 600 hospitalised COVID-19 patients, found that blood type A was associated with a 45% higher risk of requiring oxygen support or mechanical ventilation compared to other blood types, while blood type O was associated with a 35% lower risk. Similar patterns had previously been observed with other respiratory viruses, including SARS in 2003. The exact mechanism is still being studied, but one leading theory involves the way type O antibodies may interfere with the virus's ability to bind to cells in the respiratory tract. What this tells us is that blood type isn't just a cardiovascular variable, it is a systemic immunological variable that influences how your body responds to the entire external biological world. Let's shift now to cancer, because this is an area where the research is more complex and more nuanced, and I want to give you an honest picture. There is a body of research suggesting associations between certain blood types and certain cancers. For example, multiple studies have found that people with blood type A have a modestly elevated risk of stomach cancer compared to other blood types. A meta-analysis of dozens of studies confirmed this association, with type A individuals showing roughly a 20% higher relative risk. Separately, some research has suggested that type O individuals may have a slightly elevated risk of certain types of ulcers related to H. Pylori bacterial infection, not cancer itself, but a condition that if left untreated can become a precancer. It's also worth noting that people with type B and AB may have some differential risks for pancreatic cancer, though this research is still evolving. I want to be clear, these are associations identified in population studies. They do not predict individual outcomes, but they are meaningful signals that, when combined with other personal risk factors like family history, diet, and lifestyle, can help you and your doctor make smarter, more personalised decisions about what to screen for and when. Now let's talk about longevity more directly, because the question in the title is specifically about lifespan. Do people with certain blood types actually live longer? The honest answer is the data suggest modest but real differences, and type O consistently appears in the most favourable position across multiple dimensions of health risk. A large Danish study following over 1 million individuals found small but consistent advantages in survival outcomes for type O individuals compared to non-O types when controlling for other factors. But here is the critical point, and please hear me out on this, because this is probably the most important thing I'll say in this entire video. The magnitude of the effect of blood type on lifespan is dwarfed by the effect of lifestyle choices. Let me say that again. Blood type is real. Blood type is measurable. Blood type creates genuine biological tendencies, but it is not destiny, not even close. A type O person who smokes, lives a sedentary life, eats a diet full of ultra-processed food, and sleeps 5 hours a night will almost certainly live a shorter and sicker life than a type AB person who exercises regularly, manages their stress, eats an anti-inflammatory diet, and gets quality sleep. Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger, or doesn't. That is your power. So what should you actually do with this information? Let's get practical, because information without action is just entertainment. If you are blood type A, B, or AB, your most important priority should be aggressive cardiovascular protection. This means knowing your blood pressure, knowing your cholesterol levels, and not waiting until something goes wrong to address them. It means eating a diet low in saturated fats and high in omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, flax seeds, and walnuts. Because omega-3s have a well-documented ability to reduce VWF levels and platelet activity, essentially counteracting one of the key biological mechanisms through which your blood type raises your cardiovascular risk. It also means regular aerobic exercise, because exercise is one of the most powerful ways to improve endothelial function. That's the health of the inner lining of your blood vessels, and to naturally reduce clotting risk over time. If you have blood type AB specifically, given the elevated cognitive risk findings we discussed, I would argue strongly for incorporating regular brain protective habits into your life, staying cognitively active, managing blood pressure meticulously, limiting alcohol, and prioritizing deep sleep, because it is during deep sleep that your brain's lymphatic system clears out the metabolic waste products associated with neurodegeneration. If you are blood type O, you may feel like you've won the cardiovascular lottery, and in some ways you have relative advantages, but don't get complacent. Your slightly elevated vulnerability to certain infections means staying current on vaccinations is important. And if you have any family history of ulcers or stomach issues, getting tested for H. pylori is a smart, inexpensive step that could protect you from a long-term risk. Also, don't let the lower clotting tendency work against you. Some research has found that type O individuals may have slightly higher rates of certain bleeding complications, and if you're ever facing surgery or taking blood thinning medications, this is worth discussing explicitly with your physician. Across all blood types, there is one universal set of behaviours that the longevity research, not just blood type research, but all longevity research, points to consistently and decisively. Maintain a healthy body weight, because excess visceral fat drives systemic inflammation regardless of blood type. Eat a predominantly whole food, plant-forward diet rich in colourful vegetables, legumes, nuts and seeds. Move your body in a way you genuinely enjoy for at least 150 minutes per week. Prioritise 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every single night. Manage chronic stress through whatever healthy mechanism works for you. Whether that's meditation, time in nature, meaningful relationships, or creative work. And do not smoke, ever. The research on smoking and premature mortality is so overwhelming that there is no blood type advantage on Earth that compensates for it. One more thing I want to address before we wrap up, and it's the elephant in the room. You may have heard of the blood type diet, the idea popularized in the late 1990s that you should eat specific foods based on your blood type. I want to be direct and fair about this. The core scientific evidence for the blood type diet, as originally presented, is weak. There have been controlled studies looking at whether people of different blood types respond differently to the specific diets assigned to them, and the results have not supported the foundational claims of the diet. However, and this is an important however, some of the specific diets associated with different blood types, particularly the type A and type O diets, do happen to align reasonably well with established healthy eating patterns. Type A is essentially a plant-forward diet, which is broadly supported by science. Type O is a high-protein, low-grain diet that resembles a paleo-style approach, which has evidence for certain metabolic benefits. So if you tried one of those diets and felt better, it probably wasn't the blood type matching that helped you, it was the fact that you improved the overall quality of what you were eating. The lesson: don't follow a diet because it claims to match your blood type. Follow a diet because it is demonstrably healthy, well-studied and sustainable for you as an individual. Here is the bottom line on everything we've covered today. Blood type is a real physiologically active biological variable with documented associations to cardiovascular risk. clotting tendencies, stroke risk, cognitive decline, cancer vulnerability, and susceptibility to certain infections. Type O individuals appear to carry the most favorable risk profile across multiple categories, while Type AB individuals appear to carry the highest combined burden of risk. But these are tendencies, not prophecies. The difference between a long, healthy life and a shortened one is determined far more powerfully by what you do every day than by the antigen pattern on your red blood cells. Know your blood type, take it seriously as one piece of your personal health picture, act on the specific risks it raises, and then pour your energy into the lifestyle habits that science, all of science, not just blood type science, has consistently identified as the true architecture of longevity. If you found this video genuinely useful and eye-opening, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video like this one. Hit the like button to help more people find this information, and drop a comment below telling me your blood type and what surprised you most, or let me know what health topic you want me to cover next. Your comments genuinely shape what gets made on this channel, and I rate every single one. Thank you for investing your time in your health today. I'll see you in the next one.